everyone, my name is Carly Giles and I am the Family and Consumer Sciences Extension Agent at the Jessamine County Extension Office. And I'm so excited to be kicking off Cooking Through the Calendar today. And so while we are in this program, we are going to be using the food and nutrition calendar. So maybe you can see it right here on your screen. And so this is the calendar that we're going to be working throughout the year and making the recipes that's featured for that month. Now, usually we do Cooking Through the Calendar, or what we used to call Lunch and Learn, in person at the Extension Office. And hopefully we'll be able to do that later in the year. But as we are still in the first few months of 2021, we will be doing Cooking Through the Calendar virtually. And so each week we will be doing it through Zoom, and then I will be uploading the video to our Facebook group. And so if you have any friends that would like to join the Facebook group, please invite them to join. And so if you do not have one of the food and nutrition calendars, I encourage you to stop by the Extension Office and pick one up. They're free. You can pick one up for yourself, for a friend, or a family member. And so if you don't want to pick up the calendar in person, that's completely fine. I will also post the recipe in the comments section after we are done. And so you can have it that you can keep for your records. But let's go on and get started with today's first recipe, the first recipe of the month. And that is going to be the burger bowl. And so we are going to be demonstrating this live today and give you a new recipe that maybe you've never tried before. And so I'm going to read off really quickly the recipe card. What's really cool about these calendars is that they also have the terrible recipe cards in the back. So if you wanted to take these to the grocery store with you, or if you wanted to put these in your recipe books, you have that easily accessed. So for this recipe, we are first going to be making our own dressing. And so with that dressing, we're going to be using mayonnaise, ketchup, olive oil, apple cider vinegar, sugar, and salt. And then for the base of the salad, we are going to be having some romaine lettuce, some extra lean ground beef, some seasoning salt, red onion, cheddar cheese, and then some sliced tomato. So let's go on and get started today first by making that dressing. And so with our dressing, I've got all of my measuring cups already ready, and we're going to start off by adding 1/3 of a cup of low-fat mayonnaise. And so I'm going to go on and give that a good shake and put that into my measuring cup to give us a good base for our dressing. And so we're going to use one of these spatulas. These are a great spatula to get out ingredients out of a can, or when you're mixing things up together. We have these at the Extension Office. So if you will just mention that you watched the Cooking Through the Calendar video, we can definitely give you one of those when you come and pick up your calendars. So we've got that low-fat mayonnaise in there. Now we're going to add in 1/4 cup of ketchup. Give it a good shake as well. And add it into the bowl with the mayonnaise. So this dressing and this recipe is actually supposed to resemble the Big Mac. So if you've ever had a Big Mac from McDonald's, that is what it's trying to resemble and try to mimic. And so hopefully if you really like Big Macs, then you will also like this recipe. Next, we're going to add in 1 tablespoon of olive oil. So I've got extra virgin olive oil today. So extra virgin olive oil. So if you've ever wondered what's the difference between olive oil, virgin olive oil, and extra virgin olive oil. Well, extra virgin olive oil is the least processed. So it's going to have the most of those good healthy fats in the olive oil. So whenever you can, try to buy that extra virgin olive oil to get the most of the good healthy fats in there. Now, if olive oil is not in your budget, maybe it's a little bit more expensive, that's okay. canola oil has a very similar nutrient profile, and you can use that instead. But we had the olive oil at the extension office, so I'm going to be using that today. I'm going to add that in there. Then we're going to add in a half a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. Measure it very carefully since it is that liquid. You don't want to over pour it and then get too much in there, because that would be we'd have to start over since it is that apple cider vinegar. And then the last thing that we're going to be adding is 1/4 teaspoon of sugar and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I've already measured that out. Just add that into the bowl. And then we're going to give it a good stir. So I have my whisk here that I'm going to use to give it a good mix. And so then just be very careful when you are mixing it to not let it go outside of the bowl. And then this will be the dressing for our salad. And whenever you have the chance, it is great to make your own dressings. And the reason that is because you have control of the fat content, you have control of the sugar and the sodium. When you buy salad dressing at the grocery store, usually it is loaded with fat, loaded with sugar, and loaded with salt. So when you make it yourself, you have control of that and can really make sure that you're not going over your fat, sugar, and sodium in one dressing. So when that's all mixed up, this is what it looks like. So kind of resembles that Big Mac sauce. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to set that to the side and wait to use it when we are ready to dress our salad. And so I'm going to put that over here. And now what we're going to do is we are going to start making our hamburger. And so with our hamburger, what we did was I've already started some of it, but what you will take is a lean package of ground beef. So today I'm using a 90-10 sirloin, and you're going to mix that in a mixing bowl with some seasoning salt. So you're going to use a half a teaspoon of seasoning salt. Now, if you wanted to add more seasoning salt, you can, but just know that that's going to make the dish a little bit more unhealthy because you're adding more sodium to the dish, which can be a concern if we have high blood pressure. Now, if you do have high blood pressure, you could leave the seasoning salt out and just know that it's not going to have as much flavor. But with this recipe, you can alter it to make sure that it fits your lifestyle needs. So we've got the seasoning salt in here. I've already added that. And then you will just give it a good mix with your meat till it gets all good incorporated. And what you're going to do is you're going to make about 15, the recipe says, mini burger patties. So about to this size is what we're going to be using to fry for our recipe. So I've already done some of those ahead of time, so you didn't have to watch me do all of them. And here's what they look like. So what I'm going to do is I've still got a little bit more here to pat out. But while I do that, I'm going to put the camera over on our skillet so you can watch that while I continue to pat them while they cook. So we're going to put this on. If I can figure it out. Put it on. We're going to put it on 350. I'm going to let it get a little bit hot, and then I'm just going to add the hamburger patties in there. It says on the recipe card to cook about 4 minutes. And so over medium-high heat, and till they get good and golden brown, we're going to flip them once, and then they'll be good to add into our salad. So while that heats up, we'll pat out one more. And even if you wanted to use a salt substitute, you could do that as well. You maybe have your favorite salt substitute already that you use in your recipes, and you can mix that in with your beef. Now it's pretty good, so I'm going to start adding some of these in here. Hopefully my camera is good for you. And just start adding some of these. Now you may have to do this in batches. That's okay. Add those in to the skillet, and I'm going to continue to do these. Now, You can buy a not so lean cut of meat. You can do the 85-15, the 80-20, but just know that that's probably going to make more grease in your skillet, and you would definitely want to drain that off. So the leaner that you can make with your beef, that would be great. So when you are cooking with beef, it's great to cook with it every now and then. Now we have to remind ourselves that it is a red meat, and so red meat does have higher concentrations of saturated fat, which is something we don't want a high amount of in our diet, but every now and then, completely fine to cook with and eat. Beef is a complete protein. So what that means is when you eat beef, you get all of the essential amino acids that your body cannot produce. So we have to make sure that we're eating protein in our diet so we can get those amino acids that do really great things in our body. And when you eat beef, you are getting all of those complete proteins, which is a win-win. I hope you can hear the beef sizzling. I'm not going to turn it just yet. When you're cooking with beef, you can add a little bit, a touch of oil to the skillet if you want. You don't have to because there's so much fat already in the beef that it shouldn't stick. Now, when we're cooking with a leaner cut of meat, it may do that. So if it looks like I need to add just a little bit, I will, but I think we should be okay. So the recipe says that 1 pound of ground beef will make about 15 of these mini patties. It looks like I have right about that amount. I may have a few more. Okay, so I've got those done. I'm gonna add them over here for when we're ready. It's smelling really good. I'm gonna wash my hands off with one of these antibacterial wipes since I've touched that meat. And after I do this, it'll probably be a good time to flip the burgers. It's smelling really good in here. Okay, so let's see what we've got going on here. My spatula may be a little too big. We can maybe wait just a few more seconds, maybe a minute or so. Now, if you do not eat beef, you could substitute making some turkey burgers and putting in there. You could even use chicken burgers. So you can buy ground turkey, ground chicken at the grocery store and use that in replacement. That would be 100% okay. Looks like my cameras went off. So let me see if it pops back up. There we go. And I'm going to give these a flip. Yeah, it looks pretty good. And so when you're cooking with ground beef, you want to make sure that you get all the way cooked through and there is no more pink showing. You can see on the video that I'm struggling with this big spatula to get those moved. Get them all centered around again. And let those cook a little bit longer. So while those are cooking, let's go on and talk about the other components of this recipe. So we're also going to be using romaine lettuce for the base of our salad. We've got some diced tomatoes, we've got some chopped red onion, and then we're going to be using some cheddar cheese. So what I love about this recipe, kind of like what I've already said with the ground beef, is that if you want to alter this in some way, you can do that and it would be fine. So if you want to add more vegetables, you can. If you want to change the cheese and use a different type of cheese, you can do that. Or if you even wanted to change the base of the salad and use a different type of lettuce, you can do that as well. Now, when we are making salads, a good rule of thumb is the darker the lettuce, the more nutrients that it has. So with our romaine lettuce, it's going to have more nutrients in it than iceberg lettuce because iceberg is basically just water. And so we want to make sure that we're getting the most bang for our buck when we're buying the produce so we can get the most nutrients. So romaine's going to be better to use than that iceberg lettuce, whereas a spinach is going to have more nutrients in it than the romaine lettuce. So while these continue to cook, I'm going to give it just a little bit of a we want that beef to be completely cooked through. While those are cooking, I'm going to slide them over and add some more so we can get as many of these on here at a time to be cooking. So if you're watching on Facebook or you were with us via Zoom, please type into the comments section and tell us have you ever cooked with beef and put it on a salad before? And if so, how was it? Any changes that you would make? And so when I saw this recipe, I thought it was very interesting because I'd never seen people put beef on a salad before. And so I thought that would be a new recipe to try and be fun. I'm always trying to find new recipes that are new, interesting, and keeping my taste buds on their toes. I'm going to put this one more time to get that pink out. I maybe flip them a little too early. Please don't judge my flipping skills. I need some help on that. And see that it's getting a good little golden color on top. Just a minute or so and we'll be done. We will start to assemble our salad. What I love about the Food and Nutrition Calendar is that it is providing you with new spins on recipes. So maybe you've never thought about adding beef to a salad before like me. And then it also has the goal of providing you with recipes that's going to add more fruits and vegetables to your diet while also cutting back on some of those things that we know we don't always need in our diet. So we're trying to cut out on that saturated fat, the sodium, the sugar, and provide us with opportunities to cook that still provide flavor, but has a healthier nutritional profile. Now in this recipe, it will make 5 servings, and 1 cup is a serving. The cost per recipe is $10.98, and cost per serving is $2.20. So for the recipe, $10.98, and then for the serving, $2.20. And so the recipe cards will tell you how much it costs. So if you're working on a budget at the beginning of the year, these recipe cards are really great to use to see if they're in your budget for the year. Now it looks like our beef is done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my camera back over onto my cutting board, and I'm just going to put our beef on there so you can see it. Still trying to figure out the camera. We're going to put those on here. And while we assemble our salads, I'm going to let these other ones cook. I'm going to turn down the temperature just a little bit. while we assemble the salad. Okay, so now what we have our romaine lettuce. So it has already been washed and cut for our salad. We've got our red onion. I definitely cut those ahead of time so you didn't have to watch me cry while cutting those. We've got our tomatoes. We're just using some Roma tomatoes today. And then we've got our cheddar cheese. And so what I'm going to do now is I've got up my bowl. And from here, all we have to do is assemble the salad. So super easy to do from this point on. So we're just going to take our lettuce, put it in the bowl. I've got my tongs to help me. And what I think would be great about this recipe is to make it in the summer. So if you grow a garden and you have your own produce, a good fresh tomato in this would be awesome. And so then we're going to put our tomatoes in here. You can put as many or as few as you like. The more the better, because you're going to get more nutrients that way. Going to add our red onion. I could even see like a cucumber being good in this. A green bell pepper would be good, I think. Now, I'm not as big of a fan of red onions, so the fewer the better for me on that, because I sometimes think that they can be a little overpowering, but we've got that in there. Hopefully you can see that good. And then what we're going to do is just add a little bit of cheese. Now, we wouldn't want to go too heavy on the cheese because we've already got the fat from the dressing, so we don't want all the added fat from the cheese as well. Then we're going to put 3 of our burgers on there. And then we just top it with our dressing. So I'm going to give this dressing one more good stir. Make sure everything's good and incorporated. And then we're just going to add a little bit of a drizzle on there. So when you make a salad, are you heavy on the dressing or are you light on the dressing? I'm usually a little bit more heavy, but for the sake of today, I'll do a little bit lower. Now, it may be better if you use a spoon. When you're doing this at home, it doesn't have to be as fancy looking. And if I was doing this at home, I wouldn't have as much pressure to try to make it look as pretty. So here is our burger bowl salad. And so we've got 3 different types of vegetables in here. We've got our lean protein, where we're getting all of those complete amino acids in there. We've got the dressing. It's a lower fat dressing than that if you bought it at the grocery store. And then we've got the cheese in there. And so this is our complete dish. And that's all of the recipes. Super easy to make. It did have a little bit of prep work with cutting up the vegetables, but not too difficult of a recipe at all. And so this is Cooking Through the Calendar. We're here to provide you with a new recipe, something that adds more fruits and vegetables to your diet, but still delicious to eat. And so I hope you enjoyed today. I hope you will invite a friend on the Facebook group and join us next. It'll be the last Wednesday of the month. So in February, I'm not sure what that is. That will be when the next video is posted, and I hope to see you there. If you have any questions about the recipe or something that I've done on the recipe or how to get a calendar, please put that in the comment section below. Thank you all and have a good rest of your day.